What's up, YouTube? Protech here, back with another Map Hacker replay for you. This Russian account is an account that I very frequently get harassed by. This is actually a shared account between 3 different players. I actually think it's 4, but I know for sure it's shared between 3 different players. A guy named Zarkster, a guy named Load Blaster, and a guy named Prototype. And I'm pretty sure it's also shared by a guy named Stellar Mango. Anyway, so this is a pretty obvious replay. One of the things I would like to note before we get into it is that I'm not actually in this replay. This was a replay that was submitted by another player. And the part of the reason I decided to do this was because I played against this player earlier today, and I was using a stream delay, and I was still getting raffle stomped, and I just, you know, need to make this video to show you guys what really is happening, and why using stream delays and things like that really just doesn't matter in this iteration of the game. So anyway, let's get into it. I believe, matter of fact, let me just back up here, and I gotta take a look at the load screen to find out whether or not they knew what the actual races were. So just give me 1 second here. Can't remember the hotkey to open downloads Topkack. Control J, that's right. Okay, let's see. All right, so it's Terran random, right? So they know it's Terran, they know it's random. Now, in 2v2, it's very, very, very uncommon for players to, and especially as 2 Protoss, it's very uncommon to see players not walling. Now, you could make the argument that yes, there's a 66.6% chance that not walling is good because it's Terran random, right? There's a 33% chance that he's going to get Zerg. Generally speaking, though, you're not really going to, you're not going to run into players who make that type of decision making. So, yeah, and furthermore, you're 100% of the time never going to see a Protoss player go for Nexus first against Terran random. Because even if they get a good matchup, it's still really bad, right? So anyway, if we take a look, we can see what he's doing with his probe, right? He's sending his probe down here to the gold base. Now, the reason he's doing this is because he is waiting for the Reaper to complete. Which never comes. So, the Terran player goes for Tech Lab, right? Now, you'll notice that the whole idea behind this probe was to skirt the vision of the Reaper and force the Reaper to pull back to kill the SCV that's built in the command center on the low ground, right? Well, you will see later in this replay that he's obviously using map hack, but I'm sort of just trying to explain to you what he's trying to do here. What he's using production tab, and he can see that there's a tech lab building, right? So instead of waiting for the timing of the Reaper, which is, you know, roughly 2 minutes or something like that. I'm not exactly sure what the timing is, but players do have that timing down, so it's safe to assume that that's what his goal was, because it wasn't until the tech lab moved on the production tab, you know, when he decided to send his probe into the Terran Natural. Now you'll notice he also sends it directly to the Terran Natural to harass the SCV. So Marauder queues up. And one of the things that I find interesting about this Marauder Open is that, you know, they know it's 2 Protoss. But the opponents just kind of, they just kind of are playing against the production tab, is what it feels like when I look at this game. So he darts back in, confirms the natural. I think a Marauder pops out here. Yeah, Marauder pops out. He gets absolutely no scouting information whatsoever. So he puts up a Twilight Council. Now there's double Stargate here, right? Which is pretty late, all things considered. So, you know, it just kind of looks to me like he has production tab open, and he's kind of just responding to the production tab. Anyway, so the game's moving along. There's no scouting after this point. They don't leave their base whatsoever. And it's just odd to see players play like this, so unbelievably greedy. Like, and this is how hackers get their advantage, right? Because for every action, there is a reaction. And for every strategy and every build, there are certain ways that you can play and you know how to get. And I mean, look, like that, for example. Did you see that? I mean, he literally just pans right over top of those Marauders. Unless I fucking missed something, I'm pretty sure he pans right over top of those Marauders. Yeah, that's what he's doing. He's looking in the fog at the fucking Marauders. I mean, look, here they are, right? Let's back up a little bit. So the Marauders, they path this way, right? They hug the wall the entire time. Watch his camera. See how he's moving his probe down to the left side? And then he pans into the fog over the Marauders to see where they're going. And then he comes back, selects his Stalker, comes back, and builds the Nexus, right? Because the Marauders have passed this point. He was literally just waiting, because if you notice, right? I noticed his indicator, right? His indicator was going over here to check for an expansion. See that? There's the indicator, right? So in response to that play, he takes his probe and he pushes it down this way. See how he's looking at him in the fog right there? He can literally see them in camera view, right? And he's hesitating. He's not building. Then he pushes it down this way as the Marauders get pretty close, but they're still out of vision as far as I can tell. Though they are in vision, so he's probably just not paying attention. Anyway, he has not seen them, right? So these reactions and the way that he's playing is absurd. He hasn't seen the Marauders. So it's just ridiculous that he's doing all of this, right? So he pans into the fog, he sees the Marauders, builds the Nexus, goes back into the fog, sees the Marauders, and only just now do they pop onto the screen. So it's really obvious that this guy's actually just straight up using map hack. So now that we have confirmed that, before we continue on, I do want to show you guys what the current cheats are in this iteration of the game and why it is so hard to deal with, and why it basically is impossible to deal with when you're playing against players who are hacking and they're actually pretty decent at the game. So this is a screenshot that I got off of Reddit. I don't remember. I don't actually have the link for it anymore. But I'm pretty sure if you dig, you can find it. It's on Reddit somewhere, Reddit StarCraft. And this is a screenshot that was uploaded by this guy, Goom. And basically, this is just, it shows you what this map pack is, right? So at the top left of the screen, we can see a production tab. It shows what you would see in the replay. At the top right, it shows both your income and your opponent's income, as well as the supply, and I'm not really sure what that figure is on the far right. And then you'll see this little bar, this green and red bar right below all of that. I don't know what that is 100%, but what I think it is it is a bar that tells the player who's using this cheat tool that is their percent chance to win. So let's take this scenario for example, right? Let's say you're playing a PvZ and you went for 8 gateway and your opponent just made like 20 drones. Like there's literally 20 drones in the production tab, right? What I think would happen with that bar is it would go up to like 80%. In other words, it would be telling the player that if they attack now, they can walk across the map and win the game. I could be wrong about that. I'm not 100% sure if that's the way that works, but that's what I would guess. And then, of course, if you look down in the UI directly to the left of the probe, you'll see a little expansion detected, and I'm sure there's many, many, many other types of things that are listed there throughout the course of the game. But what I really want you guys to pay attention to is, I'm going to blow up the minimap on this cheat tool so that you can really see it. I want you to pay attention to the minimap here, right? So one of the biggest problems with this cheat is that on the minimap you will see these little green lines projecting from the dots on the minimap, right? So if you direct your attention to the center of the map, you'll see a blue dot, and then you'll see a dotted green line projecting from the blue dot. Now, I know the timing of where an overlord would be on the map, and so it's safe to assume that that is an overlord, right? So then we can discern that this blue dot and this green projected line is telling the cheater that this is an air unit, right? Now, if we look at the top left of the screen, we can see a little red dot, right? And that would be the Protoss probe scouting. And we can see a solid green line projecting from that red dot, correct? So what that means is that that is a ground unit. So one of the craziest things about this cheat is that it lifts the fog off the minimap, and of course in the game as well. And then it actually tells the cheater the projection of the unit. So you can just imagine if, say, a Terran player sends a drop to the northern side of the map, well, and then he sets up a waypoint, say he goes north, and then he goes west, you know, in like an L shape, right? Well, then the top left player, he's obviously going to be prepared for that no matter what, right? Because he can see the trajectory, he can see where it's taking place. And then, of course, on top of that, you know, if there's going to be a double drop, there's likely to be a frontal assault, right? So you can prepare for these multi-prongs super easily, right? And so I just kind of wanted to cover what I think this player is using and just kind of put it into context a little bit, because I'm 90% sure that this cheat right here is the current cheat that people are using in LOCV. So anyway, I digress. Back to the point here. It's really obvious that he was staring at the Marauders in the fog, right? So moving along, that right there in and of itself just proves that he's map hacking. And let's also not forget, his build is ridiculous. Like, the fact that he's not mining any gas, and he's literally, this is a tier 1 Master League game. This is the top of the ladder. The fact that he is cutting all of these corners and just straight up getting away with it is just horse shit. It doesn't matter how good you are. You're never going to see a player who is legit play as obnoxious as this motherfucker. It's just never going to happen. And actually make it work. Alright, so you might think to yourself, that's anecdotal. Those Marauders, he just got lucky, whatever. Which, if you're a good player, you know that that's 100% map hack, by the way. But if you're not a good player, then I can understand, you might think that's anecdotal. But what happens later in this replay, you'll understand why he is 100% map hacking. And then if you watch his player, like his player camera, you will quite obviously see many camera locks. And what I mean by camera lock, and just to put that into context for people who don't know what camera lock is a function in the cheats where, say, like the player, when you watch the replay, the player's screen is frozen on a certain point on the map, right? So let's say his camera's frozen right here and he's not doing anything and his APM drops down to 0 or whatever. What's happening there with players like this, because we already know he's hacking based off of what happened with those Marauders, is that he's actually, the replay is recording that his camera is frozen here, right? But in actuality, he's actually over here looking at the CC, looking at the the production, looking at everything on the map, looking at units that are crossing the map, etc., right? That's what he's actually doing, and that's what camera lock is, just so you understand what that is. So every time you see this guy's camera freeze and lock, that's actually what he's doing. He's going through the map, looking at the state of the game, etc., etc. Alright, so anyway, moving along, and we can just clearly see that this playstyle is so unbelievably greedy, and the fact that he's getting away with it is just absurd. He's not building any cannons. I mean, for fuck's sake, there's Phoenixes. How about an Oracle? How about a Cloak Banshee? How about this? How about that? I mean, he obviously knows that none of that shit is coming his way, right? And these are the types of corners that these types of hackers cut to gain such a massive advantage. And this is particularly why it is so damn hard to deal with, because they can take these quick thirds, saturate it, and then as units are literally crossing the map, look, his probe production just stops, right? He doesn't make any more probes. He's chrono boosting his shit. He's warping in units. And this is where the problem lies, because there is no balance, especially when you don't have the scout. There's no balance between economy and building army, right? He knows when to stop. He knows when to start building probes again. And then look, you can see, I mean, here are the Phoenixes, but I mean, look at what he's doing with his army. He knows that this army is crossing the map right now. You can just tell. They haven't scouted anything. Why would he be moving his army to a bunch of Phoenixes, right? That doesn't make any sense. It's totally illogical. So the only conclusion that you come to here is that he knows that this army is crossing the map. Chrono boosting his warp gates for no apparent reason. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And it's only just now where they see the fucking army, right? And as we could clearly see here, he cut all workers, he chrono boosted his gates, and he fucking spammed units, right? As that army is literally crossing the fucking map. So, again, I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but I have to reiterate the importance and the problem with cheating in StarCraft 2 right now, is that this particular concept, being able to play super greedy and then at the same time being able to defend plays like this is the problem with hacking and why it is unbeatable in Legacy of the Void. It is the main reason why it is literally just impossible. Which is shitty, because it never used to be like that. The game wasn't so focused around positioning and economy. But now with those two things, combined with the fact that the maps are fucking ginormous, you're just a sitting duck. You're literally just a sitting duck. It's bullshit. This is part of the reason why I really want map makers to make smaller maps and not big maps like this. Because when you have big maps like this, players like this just gain such a fucking ginormous advantage. It's just insane. And you know, there's no balance. There's no. So he takes a fourth here, right? Well, the reason he takes a fourth here is because this is in response to the third. So he's always gaining an economic advantage. This play right here, this nexus, is literally a response to this and a response to this. That's what this is. He's always trying to gain an economic lead. And he can do this because he cheats. I mean, it's just hilarious to watch this player play with the production tab open, because that's literally all he's doing is countering the production tab. And it's pretty funny too, because if you'll notice, like every single time units are crossing the map, he does a warp in every time. He probably didn't even know what those are on the mini map, but he probably sees them out of his peripherals crossing the map, so he does a warp in. I just think that's funny. And this guy doesn't attempt to scout. He doesn't attempt to harass. His army is in the perfect position no matter what. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? There's just no way to compete with this. I have been trying for a long time to come up with some sort of a solution to this bullshit. Because, you know, in Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm, there absolutely was. Okay, so look, so his teammate says go, right? Now watch what he does with his army. He sends, so this chat is, we're watching this from these two Protoss perspective, right? But this chat is from the Terran player in this game, and he's telling his teammate go. So this Protoss player is responding to that in particular. Watch what he does here. He sends a fuckery ton of shit up here. A moves it right here. And then he sends this huge army. Look at this. You see here's a drop. And then, so the idea here is that, look at this. As the units are here, he knows that this is only 2 drops and a bunch of phoenixes. And by the time, even if the phoenix count is higher here, it doesn't matter because they're going to be fighting into the macro, right? So even if this phoenix count is higher, fighting into the macro, there's going to be more phoenixes here. So knowing this, he sends his whole army up this way to this location. These phoenixes are chilling here. So what he does here is he sends this army across the map, as we can see in the waypoint, right? As they're moving out, to either kill this army and kill this mineral line, right? Pretty coincidental, right? No, it's not. He's using cheats. And his buddy Hardwell does too. That's why you see him fiddling around with his shit too. This guy's 100% a map hacker if you didn't know. If you were a Hardwell fan, I feel sorry for you. I mean, look. See this? Look at this. Like, what? Hello? You have no vision on the map whatsoever, right? So what the hell is going on over here? You make this play at this time. Let's slow this down and just kind of see what happens. Look at this. See this? And then if you'll notice, if we put our cursor over the minimap, we can see the ping here, right? That ping was issued before he saw that Marine, I believe. Let me just go back and see if that is true. It doesn't really matter whether it did or it didn't. He's obviously hacking. Yeah, see? So even before he saw the unit here, we can see that there's a ping right here, right? And he's got his whole army here. And what happens to be here? Oh, that army. And then what do you happen to be doing down here? A counter that is going to succeed in killing this army and killing SCVs. So literally, do you see what I'm saying? You can see the projection, the trajectory of the drop. They know exactly where it's going. And then plays like this happen, and you can't even fucking punish it. You can't punish this greedy play. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, obvious map hack, right? Whatever, obvious map hack. But this is a player that harasses me day in and day out, 8 hours a day, all the time, fucking, and this account is shared between 4 different players. So it's literally around the clock. And because Blizzard has the social settings in this game so fucked up, you can't avoid them. So using a stream delay does nothing. Stream delay would help if these players were not able to see your queue. And the way that these players see your queue is they spam message your inbox, and then they can see if you're searching, and they can see how long you're searching. So using a stream delay against players like this doesn't do anything. The only way that a stream delay would help is if Blizzard fixed the fucking UI, the social settings, so that people can't spam message you and see your queue, and literally every time you queue up, they get in your game. That would be the only possible way to handle issues like this. Trust me, guys, I've played this game for a long time. This iteration of the game, combined with map hack and cheating, it is fucking impossible to deal with. It is literally impossible to deal with. It's just too much of an advantage with the way the maps are. If the maps were like smaller and the game was more focused around like one base play with micro instead of like macro, then yes, you'd have a pretty good chance because they're shit players, right? They're not good players. That's why they hack. So if it was focused around micro and not this bullshit where they can just fucking take a 4th base as they're taking their 3rd, and you know, and just play stupid builds and be really greedy, stop workers. I mean, for fuck's sake, dude. Blizzard, please. I'm really getting tired of it. It's really getting old having to deal with this account day in and day out, streaming it to hundreds of viewers every single fucking day for you to not address this problem. It's ridiculous. So anyway, I wanted to make this video to show you guys that this player who snipes and harasses me day in and day out is in fact using map hack. And again, it is shared. I know it's shared between 3 accounts or 3 players, but I think it's shared between 4. Zarkster, Stellar Mango, Load Blaster, and Prototype. Those are the 4 players that use this fucking account. So it's literally, and all of those guys live in different time zones. So it's literally just around the clock all the time, day in and day out. It's getting ridiculous. And Blizzard, you need to do something about it. It's just absurd at this point. It'd be one thing if I wasn't streaming it to 100 viewers, 200 viewers, 300 viewers, 400 viewers, 500 viewers. It's a completely different thing when you are. So anyway. Seriously, guys, spread this video. Let's at least try to do something about this. Like, I don't know, get Blizzard, I mean, have Blizzard look at it at the very least. I don't know. Anyway, it's kind of a ranty video, but gotta blow off some steam, you know what I'm saying? Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good day. Peace out.